What is up? Welcome everybody to the Creed of Crypto live stream. I am one half of your host, Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. Welcome in to the show tonight. Do us a favor and tippity tap that like button on your way in to help us support real DeFi, help support the channel. We very much appreciate it. And we're all hanging out together right now. We got a big dip in the market, so let's commiserate, let's hang, because it isn't just PulseChain, it's everything people are freaking out about prices about. So as you can see in the thumbnail tonight, are you crying or buying? We're going to talk about that. Are you doing both? It's okay. It's all right to shed a tear every now and then if you're, at least holding, during these trying times. So it is the first real significant pullback that we have had here in what is now a new bullish environment in 2024, despite many people who said that like 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that Martin Shkreli guy or some Bitcoin guy was saying that 75K was programmed for this Friday, and that never So we are now down to 62K for BTC. We're going to get to all that, but we got a poll question in there tonight. We want to know what you guys think. We're going to talk about this topic again tonight because it's still fresh. It happened about a week and a half ago, but the whole, Richard Hart, the market's chosen Hex, not eHex, blah, 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 whatever, and how people have kind of taken those words and twisted them and, gotten really emotional and irrational over the last couple of weeks. We have a question there. How should Hex on Ethereum be referred to? So would you guys just still call it eHex? Should people start calling it Hex Classic? I threw in OG Hex because I saw a couple people saying that, or other, and then just let us know what you think in the chat. Is it important? I don't know. I think it is to some people because people are talking about like how to market it now, how to talk about all this and everything. So let us know your thoughts. We'd like to hear from you guys. But buying red as always, Philly. So Philly, Einar, Patrick's Astro and stuff, DJ Moonboy. Appreciate you guys being here. Bid Finesse as well. Thank you guys for joining the chat. And Ewok, how are you feeling this evening?
I'm good. It's Tuesday, seeing a dip. It's like classic Tuesday, I guess. We see the red candles on our stream and then get the rest of the week to build her back up. So yeah, but otherwise I'm doing all right. I'm trying to avoid the cesspool of X and or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Get away from some of the negativity and, put the feet outside in the grass and when it's warm enough. But yeah, doing good.
First day of spring today and a little bit of snowfall where we are. So that was kind of interesting. But yes, I totally agree with you. And we are going to get into that in a serious way too, is like avoiding Twitter during times like this because it's, horrible. It is at a level I don't recall it being this bad, to be frank. So we're going to get to that. But first off, let's take a look at these dips in prices. We'll take a look at the bigger crypto market. So Bitcoin right now hovering right around 62K. A little bit below there, we have ETH down below 3,200, which is the blockchain and the price action that we in this ecosystem are going to be a little bit more concerned with. Number one, because ETH, kind of as ETH goes, so do the alts go, but also a wallet people may be familiar with that is associated with the PulseChain sacrifice funds has an invested interest in Ethereum as well at a price about $700 higher than here. So neither here nor there, people are going to be paying attention to that, and we'll see how far ETH does fall. But what do you make just looking at the Bitcoin and or ETH charts right now, Ewok? This is the pullback, the beginning of it that we've struck out and been wrong about on the time of for umpteen times now. Bitcoin just kept relentlessly going towards 73K ultimately, and now finally we're starting to see what we kind of expected a little bit here. So what do you make of this?
Yeah, totally. This is the one we were looking for. We were just off on our timing. We are getting closer to the halving, obviously. Standard traditional pullback where it could go upwards of 30 to 40% if previous cycles are any telling sign. That's where we could end up. So you measure this top here and you're anywhere 20% would put it down to right about 58. You go down to 40% and you're looking roughly 44. So somewhere in there is where it'll probably bottom out. And, once the halving happens and get the, you know, this shock in supply decrease there. And, that's when things actually do start to run. So that's just what we're looking at. And like I said, we were a little bit off on our timing, right on the dip, but wrong on the timing. It's not a perfect science, but, I was looking at this RSI movement down here. It kind of looks like Batman. Did you see this? I don't know if you
Yeah.
or not, but there is like a head and shoulders in there as well.
Oh, it is very Batmanish. Yeah. Now that I zoomed in. Yeah.
So, uh, but yeah, I mean, it's standard, and Ethereum's doing the same thing. Obviously, we know they're tied together liquidity wise as far as pairing goes on almost all exchanges. There's a BTC ETH pair. So when one drops, the other one does too. We'll see how. I don't think in the previous bear market at the bottom of the bear, Ethereum didn't fall back near as hard as Bitcoin did. It had a lot of strength and held up nicely. But this one is taking a nice look forward. It's down, from the top. This is down already 20, 22, 23%. So, again, standard play of what we were kind of calling. It's here now. How long will it last? Probably another week or so, until the halving. We might get a little strength before it with people trying to front run it, just to get that jump on it and take advantage of what they think is about to happen. But yeah, I mean, totally expected, and it's there's not a whole lot of strength right now. So.
And you make a really good point there. Yeah, ETH did very well in the bear market. Many people were planning for at least sub $600 ETH, and we never got there. I think the lowest we got was a little below $900 or so. So it held up pretty well, which is why, hopefully not, but we may see it have a little bit of a tougher time now. It is falling in the ratio against BTC now as we are dipping at the moment. So, but yeah, footsteps, isn't it normal to dip before the halving? Yeah. And here's the other thing. People have been talking about this left translated cycle concept, and Bitcoin has been, again, looking way bullish, way early this year. These prices and new all-time highs were really under regular circumstances, like a normal right translated cycle that we've seen in Bitcoin's history.
Yeah.
These prices are like 6 to 8 months. They're here early. I mean, I was going to say overdue, but they're here too early is what I'm trying to say. We're front running what we would normally be doing. So that's why this talk of the left translated cycle has been happening, which I don't want. Ewok, I know you don't want. I think most people don't want, because that kind of makes everything happen quicker, which you may say like, oh, okay, cool. I want to get rich quick. Well, yeah, but we also don't exactly know that is how that's going to happen, though, because, we may see a depressed BTC price if that were to happen again later this year, maybe a double top scenario, or at least it gets up to like 85K and comes down, and who knows what the alts are doing by then. And everything, it's uncharted territory, basically, whereas with a regular right translated cycle, we know, or we have an idea anyway, of what would typically happen, which is a year, 18 months after the Bitcoin happening is when we see the top, which everybody's planning for 2025. Yeah, we've seen this crazy bullish action so far. I mean, there's a chance, I'm not saying this, but I mean, we could have seen the high for Bitcoin in 2024 already. Like there's a chance that could have happened. And frankly, again, as I'm saying right now, I wouldn't even necessarily hate that, because that could be painting a picture of like going back to the normal cycle. Maybe we just front run a little early this year. So what do you make of that, Ewok? Because I know many people think that sounds maniacal, but what do you think the chances are we've seen the high for 2024 for just Bitcoin, I'm saying?
It's possible. I don't think so, though. I think there's a lot more volume. I think there's a lot more buy pressure with the ETF. Like you said, completely uncharted territory. The ETF is definitely going to rule this cycle, to see, what type of effect it really does have once that supply shock hits. And I think I think it could struggle, once it gets up in there. I think we'll see a double top of this, but I don't really see a whole lot of sideways movement for the rest of the year like that. Like I said, it will drop, but then it will start to run again. Just how hard and how much manipulation will happen, that's the question we really don't know. Now that a lot of these major big players are getting invested, what type of manipulation will happen? And that's kind of what we have to wait on to see how they play out. But I saw something, I believe it was from Axis the other day, where for me, it was completely off on the schedule. He said something about another 200 days till we reach the top of where Hex was. But that only puts it at 3 years. So I'm going to have to talk to him and see where he's coming up with that number. Because in the last cycle, Hex obviously was a very delayed move after everything pretty much had happened. It was one of the very last. So to have that spot in only 200 days from now puts it into 2024 and not 2025, which is where, obviously we think the end of the cycle will fall, at least the top for a lot of things anyway. So yeah, it was just really weird how we have a 4-year cycle, but there were a lot of people claiming that Hex would only have 3 years. So
yeah,
need to dig a little deeper into that one. And when I can get some more information, I'll talk about it in more detail. But we always know Richard likes to have the spotlight on him. So, I think that's one of the reasons why Hex was one of the last ones to run. And also we got the 50 weeks shakeout. What if that gets delayed a little bit too? What if
there's already been people talking about that? I don't know if it's because we're 8 weeks away, or just and we were going to get into that even further, but people just kind of beat these old quotes into the ground and take it as 100% pure gospel programmed in.
Right.
And yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Could totally see that as well, where it could be delayed by 6 weeks just to really shake them out, because at that point when they think, all right, here we go, 50 weeks are up, it's time to take off, and nothing.
Right.
What I mean?
That's what the market thinks now.
Yep, exactly. And I think that would honestly be a smarter play anyway, for it to do absolutely nothing for 4 to 6 weeks. I don't mind holding. I'm perfectly fine holding and not worrying about the prices too much at this point. Obviously, we want to see them go up, but when the market's this heavy and there's still a lot of holders in there that probably shouldn't be, I can see it from their actions and words. Instead of propping people up, they're just constantly tearing others down. So I can tell that we're still not quite ready, to make those type of moves yet.
Well, I said the quote to you, and I think it's from like Shaun of the Dead or something, but the movie where they have just a quote about like let's just go to the pub and have a pint while this all blows over. I mean, that's basically where it feels like we're at right now. Like this is a bull market pullback. It isn't pleasant, but it's not the bear market. It's going to be shorter lived. And it's kind of just like, all right, time to not ignore things. I mean, we're still here doing our show and everything, but let's not get wrapped up in some of this bullshit drama where people are just absolutely losing their minds all over Twitter about things that are going on right now, which is purely just because prices of things are down, So before we get specifically into that, let's look at the prices of the PulseChain ecosystem here. So we've had a big dip and a pullback. And this is another one of those things where you can label it, and we're seeing this on Twitter. People are labeling what the reasoning is for the pullback. But when I first was writing these notes, I wrote that the pullback ensued days after the RH Hex Classic or eHex tweets saying the market has chosen Hex, blah, blah, blah. But really, I mean, shortly after that, again, we may have front run it with PulseChain, but the whole market's been tanking. So we've seen our ecosystem come down. Now, that was, and we talked about it last week. I mean, we saw Hex sell off. I'm not saying just eHex. We saw Hex in general, both hexes sell off,
Yeah.
and I know some people out there want to pretend that isn't happening or whatever, but that's what we saw, and more money rotated into PulseChain, PulseX, Inc., whatever else. But either way, then the whole ecosystem comes down, and you can assign it to the Richard's tweets or whatever, but also, like I just said, the whole market's coming down.
Right.
So, just looking at the prices quick. We got Pulse it's coming closer down to sack rate. We're at 30.1125 now, so a bit over sack rate. Pulse X back down to 50% below the sack rate. We have incentive at 558 right now. And combined hex the whole way down to what, 1.5 cents, 1.6 cents or something like that, which is pretty much the lows of the 2022 bear market in December. So yeah, that's where we are. Maybe I shouldn't be quite, I'm sorry, shouldn't have done that. 1.24 cents for hex, and a quarter of a penny basically for eHex, Hex Classic, whatever anybody wants to call it. So
what do you want to call it while we're on that little topic?
It's the least interesting subject to me, to be honest. I know people want to talk about that a lot. I feel weird about it. Like, I know everybody wants to say Hex Classic. Apparently not, now that I'm looking at the poll results. But a lot of people have been saying Hex Classic. It just reminds me of hearing ETH Classic. And I look at ETH Classic as a worthless, like, who gives a shit. And to me, that makes me look at... I don't look at eHex like everybody else does as a worthless piece of shit, or that everybody else, as in the people on Twitter that, suck up to every single thing that Richard Hart says. I look at it as something that's still going to be liquidity bonded and is going to catch back up to a degree to Hex again. And I even bought some last week, but it's going to be hard for me to break the habit of eHex. But yeah, what do you think? And what do you think it's important? I would like to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's important that everybody is on the same page. Kind of, I kind of like, I do like the Hex Classic. It doesn't really remind me of ETH Classic. I mean, that was a whole different scenario. I believe that's when they had to roll the chain back, and then I heard other people saying, well, that reminds me of proof of work, and ETH is proof of stake, but what they don't realize is they were both proof of work when it happened. So, there was really no discrepancy with their, security mechanism and inflation model. They were both proof of work when it happened. I just don't associate it. I do like, Hex Classic and Hex. If we're going to value the one, let's call it that way. I saw Ivan on Tech, did a little thing. I don't know if you caught that little video or not.
I did.
And it's interesting too to see. I don't know if we were talking about this. I didn't see it in your notes, but how does the outside world see this community? And I think we're in such a echo chamber that they don't really see a lot of this stuff. I know it's I've heard many other communities are very similar. There's just, when you bring that many crazy personalities and people that are willing to take risks to one place, you're going to have a lot of conflict, and you're going to have a lot of this. So from what I understand, it's pretty standard. This is one of the first, communities that I've really been in and a part of, from pretty much the beginning. So, I just wasn't really familiar with other ones, and I don't care to, I don't dive in and go look and see what the Solana people are doing or the Cardano,
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't like troll in their little circles. So, but from what I understand, it's very similar, and all of them have the same issues. It's just one of those crazy things. Back to the original question though. I do like Hex Classic. I think it, is still important. I think it will still do okay. But the message that was sent was, okay, guys, let's onboard, let's focus into one, right? We go from one token that did amazing, crazy things to now we've got 5. 5 things that when your money gets divided like that, it's very hard to do with a very similar size of community. And being after the bear market, probably even less, right? I'm sure a lot of people stepped away. They're not, they're out of the game for now. Maybe they're staked and they just went away because there's a lot of names that I haven't seen in a while. So, it is hard. We've got to build it, and we've got to get back to focusing on, the main one, which is Hex. Now, now you talk about staking. People are kind of salty about staking. I still think T-shares are king. I still think T-shares are going to be the thing that people turn around and like, holy shit, now I can't afford it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's going to be too late. I hope not. I mean, I hope there's still meat left on the bone for everybody, but I still think that the T-shares are going to be the thing that people really kick themselves for emergency unstaking and doing crazy plays and swapping in and out of different things. So, yeah, but yep, Hex Classic for me. I think it rolls and sounds the best. That's my 2 cents.
We'll see. I don't think we're going to get everybody to agree on that. I am interested to see kind of how this evolves, though. Like how just some people want to like report you on Twitter if you talk about it. Some people understand that it exists and there may be opportunities there. I mean, like this. I didn't mean to have this conversation this early because this would go a million different ways, but
All right.
for people to, in my opinion, to pretend it doesn't exist, say that you're only harming everything basically by sending anybody there to like learn about it or purchase it at first. I just think that's incorrect. And here's the thing. We're both right. Neither one of us is right or wrong or
Right.
incorrect or whatever, because it is a fucking market. That's what I just don't think that people can understand. I get so sick of this like unilateral thinking of like, no, it's this. It doesn't exist anymore. Richard said it. And it's like, no, actually he didn't say it. He said that the market's chosen one, which is exactly what I'm trying to say right here. The market has chosen one. There's two different ones, markets trade, whatever. Neither one of you are right. The market is right, and that's who you need to start listening to,
Yeah.
and yeah, you can force it whatever you want. Yeah, sure. Force your opinion as much as you want to. Like force what doesn't exist to exist, and see how that works out for you, Now I'm not saying like for me, like to me, if there's somebody who's like a no coiner, totally new, getting into this, you want to introduce Hex and the PulseChain ecosystem to them. To me, if they have interest and are going from like day one, it's already gonna be complicated for them. I mean, like by the time you like get Coinbase, do all the KYC stuff, send stuff to a wallet, like for a brand new person, I think we underrate how difficult that is for a brand new person now.
Agree.
So to me, I would just lead them to the PulseChain, the actual Hex. I would just have like, why not just teach the whole way through, teach them the bridging and everything like that. At that point, they know the hardest thing there is to know. So they'll never need to even think about a world where it's just like, how come I go to Uniswap and the token's not even here? Oh, it's because they're, bought and paid for assholes and they censor what they don't like. So you don't even have to go that direction. So to me, this argument of like, don't be pushing them to eHex because, that's where they used to be. Like, to me, just go the full way right away. And then some people are like, well, I've only onboarded people into Hex on Ethereum and all this stuff. I totally get that. I completely understand that. And I understand how it would be normal for some people, and I don't fault them for that at all. But the wisest thing to do is to stop listening to anybody that's telling you 100%, cut it off at the pass one way or the other. Stop listening to that. Listen to people who are open-minded, understand these things have nuance. We brought up a tweet response from Toby1 Hexobi in response to Richard last week, where he was showing like a recent onboard where he had them, he starts them all out with all 5 tokens. Yeah, exactly. He started them out with all 5 tokens. And you could buy eHex on Ethereum or like maybe bridge over and just buy that, whatever. That's the way to do it, I think. Not this shit of like, it's one or the other, censor this, don't let them tell you that. Okay, good luck with that. Good luck. Look at what the mass media does with censoring things, and look who's actually taking over the world in media right now. Joe Rogan, all these, Patrick Bet-David. Like, see what works for you when you start censoring things, and see how that works out for you.
Yep.
So yeah, Johnny Chaos totally gets.
We clicked it at the same
time. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. You can delete it. You can't delete it. It's either a memorial or a tower, but it will always reflect on everything else. Yeah.
Yep.
Agree. So yeah, didn't mean to go on that soapbox. I don't know if you had any response to that or anything you want to say, Ewok.
Get off your soapbox, would you? No, I agree. I mean, there's plenty of ways. And, honestly, I remember the last cycle when we were on Hex and on Uniswap, and I heard people say, man, it's just so complicated. And then everybody got used to it, right? It was like buy your Ethereum or USDC, swap into into Uniswap, and boom, there you go. People learn it, and you're right. I think if you're starting with a brand new onboard, especially if they don't have a lot of money, right? I mean, the idea here, the reason PulseChain was created, was to save on gas fees, right? I mean, with ETH fees being so high, it sucks to take half and blow it in fees, right? So I mean, I get it. You're going to have to get over there one way or another. There aren't really right now. We have something to talk about with Coast here in a little bit, but currently the bridge and the other ways to get over there are kind of pricey. I was helping a buddy this weekend, and we were using I can't remember coin. Shoot,
what, a Dex? Are you today?
No. I just drew a blank. But anyway, it was one of the services for onboarding into PulseChain where you can just send your money. It was one of the that sucks. I can't believe I just forgot what it's called.
Was it that Change Now thing or whatever?
Change Now, yes, Change Now, changenow.io. And the one cool thing about that is you can actually buy your ETH on Coinbase and send it directly to Change Now and put your PulseChain address in, and it ends up there. So you don't have to send it to a wallet and then send it to Change Now. You just send it right to Change Now. Now, I mean, it is 3 or 4%, so it is a little bit high, but it's a quick way for people to go from just about anywhere and into PulseChain. So, it takes a few minutes and it shows up, probably 5-10 minutes, and it's there. It is still a little quicker than the actual bridge itself when it's busy, but I think it's a good way to do it. To get started, you can do little bits with a credit card if you don't even have the Coinbase. You know what I mean? So it's a nice onboard. Like I said, it's a little pricier. The percentage is high, but for convenience factor, it works really good. So
yeah,
just wanted to throw that out there. But yes, I agree. Onboarding new people, let's show them the whole way to do it. Now, Change Now is kind of cheating. Because you're not seeing the bridge, you're not seeing any of that stuff. But once you're in that little, once you're in the PulseChain ecosystem, you've got a lot of things to do, and you don't really have to get in and out too crazy and for anything. So yeah, it makes it nice that you have a one-stop shop then, and it is cheap to transact. You can learn by sending your own wallet a couple transactions if you want to do. Little transactions to practice and show how do you copy the address? How do you send it? What do you do? How do you approve it, kind of thing. That's one of the very nice things about it. So,
yeah. Yeah, and we are going to get to other ways of bridging tonight too. And yeah, actually, speaking of which, right here, Coinbase USDC via Arbitrum to SparkSwap for Pulse has worked well. We're going to talk about exactly that a little bit later tonight. We've talked about it before, but we're going to bring it up and show you guys a couple things on using that. So appreciate the comment. If you guys are here and enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor, like it. We appreciate all of you being here. Subscribe to the Creed of Crypto YouTube channel as well to help support us in Real DeFi. We appreciate you guys here. We've had great chats, excuse me, the last couple of nights. So yeah, very much appreciate it. Let's move on to this. So pretty much we were just talking about this subject, but I want to get to what Richard Hart actually said about it. So following up with the whole EHEX thing. So a few days ago on the 14th, he said, and I DM'd this to you, Ewok, if you want to bring up the tweet. I just sent it to you a minute ago. But this was back 5 days ago. So Richard followed up kind of the tirade that he went on the weekend before that by saying Hexicans are living the dream that migrated from Ethereum to PulseChain. Look at the liquidity, look at the fees. Heck, EHEX even has more liquidity in PulseX than Uniswap. Look at the JPEG and look at the gas fees, $319 versus 4 cents at that time. $35 million of liquidity versus like 1 million. You guys moved all the liquidity to PulseX. You guys sold into what was left, but y'all blame a tweet instead of yourselves. He's becoming Florida Richard in this one. Welcome to the consequences of your actions. The choice was obvious, which is why so many people made the right one. Maybe in the bull market, EHEX will get pulled along, but the higher its price, the more economic energy will be lost to ETH fees. And that energy lost could have been more coins bought. TLDR, y'all are blaming a tweet because y'all moved all the liquidity and sold into what was left because you wanted to move to the beautiful shining city on the hill, Hex on PulseChain. The sooner you take responsibility for your actions or realize it's market forces, the better it'll be for you. Probably blaming guys that held while everyone else sold. Hex has quite a few trades stronger now than it did a few years ago. There's only so many people in this world that actually care about you and want to see you do well, and I'm one of them. Not financial advice. Past performance does not guarantee future. So what do you make of that? I think, and he hadn't even a better tweet, I think, over that previous weekend. He had just that meme of whatever show that is, where it's just showing that basically investors all shot down EHEX and then blamed Richard Hart for it. So, what do you make of this tweet? How do you kind of analyze that? And do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, it's hard, when you're as loud as he is, not loud, but when you have as many followers, and you say one thing, yeah, he didn't click the button. Did he do it the right way? Well, I don't know. I mean, why would you wait so long? First of all, I mean, I guess you do have to wait to see, right, where the markets are going. But you would think, he was definitely watching Twitter back. Maybe, he was still tweeting then, I believe. He just didn't say anything. So I kind of thought this probably should have been handled a long time ago. Again, it's going to be forgotten about in 3 weeks, maybe a month. Yeah. Everybody will be they'll move on. I don't think he did anybody bad. I think he's trying to protect the little guys. He doesn't want to see the economic energy going into ETH chain when it could be going into PulseChain, where everything gets pulled up, right? Not just one coin. So I get it. I mean, but again, people reacted by emergency end staking and doing these things where, again, what if a big whale decides to jump in? What if there's, eventually the BankX liquidity gets eaten through and things kind of take off? Who knows? Like, I get onboarding new people into PulseChain and all that good stuff, but exactly, he didn't push any buttons. I think people overreacted by what he said, and it's just emotional damage. The emotional damage kind of guy. So that's all it is. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. People need to be responsible for their actions and not blame other people. So that's the bottom line.
Because Stone Cold said so. Thank you. Perfect.
That's right.
And then also today, so I wanted to bring this up too. So he updated the hex.com verb, not he, somebody updated the hex.com verbiage on the market choosing hex. So basically, I forget exactly how it said, but the hex.com website got updated. Some updates were made to PulseX as well. that and I was actually messing with it. It does seem way faster. So some things were done there as well. But I guess I guess what do you make of the website being updated? I'm going over my notes and what I wanted to talk about here. And again, like we already said, people are kind of talking in black and white terms about it, no nuance in the conversation. Let's just get into the Twitter stuff, I guess, too, and strategies around taking time off from it, because it's just been pretty untenable the last few days. I think over the weekend it was probably the worst, when I know you and I both totally checked out of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
talk about that, because we've seen that before, not just in the PulseChain or Hex ecosystem, but in crypto Twitter. I mean, Twitter all over. It doesn't matter what silo you're in. But yeah, it just has gotten. We are a nation of mentally ill people. I mean, that's just never been more clear, I think, than the last couple of years anyway. But you're seeing it with all this right now. Some of it's understandable. People might have life savings in some of this stuff, and it goes down, and they get emotional and all these things, and I understand that. But for our own mental health, or anybody's own mental health, you got to check out. And I know it's very hard to do sometimes, because you're getting the notifications, you want to see what's going on. There's, massive changes here and there constantly, but you're just going to be best served getting away from it. So talk about some strategies that you kind of use for that Ewok, because we were talking about a couple of people off the air before we got on that I honestly feel bad for, because you can tell that their entire day is just spent to try to get in little battles and little wars with people. And I just don't understand, like, what life do you even have at that point? But yeah, anyway, well, what do you do when times like that?
Well, I get away. So, I'm the type of person where I don't like drama. I try to avoid it at all costs in my regular life. And I do the same thing on X, on Twitter. So I use the mute button a lot. I I try not to say anything, because a lot of times people will either take you out of context, or try to speak for what you were trying to say instead of what you actually said, and it just starts an argument. And I really think you're right. There are so many unhappy, unhealthy, not unhealthy, but unhealthy minded people out there, that maybe aren't sure what their next move is, right? They probably overinvested. They didn't listen to the don't invest more than you can lose, because this can all go to zero. Because it really can. You saw what one tweet did from a founder that a lot of people respect, right? I mean, there was a lot of things that happened. So there are things that can go bad. And I agree with you. I feel really bad for the ones that, weren't in before the fork, that only bought the EHEX, and they just saw their bags, get kind of pummeled. So I do feel for them. But I'm also seeing a lot of them come around too, and understand that that was the decision that they made. And, now it's time to pivot. Hang on. Don't capitulate completely, because, you could still salvage a good bit of that. But, how do you handle it? You've got to get away from it. You've got to read books. You've got to at least look at yourself. The only way to really fix it is to fix yourself, right? I mean, I hate to say personal development. There's a lot of books out there that will help you. How to win friends and influence, or what is it?
Yeah, Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some books out there that really help you take things, how you say them really matters, right? So, there's just how to win friends and influence people is the book, but there's a lot of steps you can take. But honestly, the most healthy one is just getting away from it. You've got to unplug yourself every once in a while. And I see people on there all the time. Every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're tweeting something, or picking a battle with somebody, or just arguing to argue. It gets tiring. And I use the mute button a lot for things like that. You know, I don't want to see it. So it helps my feed become more positive and more normalized, where I see more discussions happening rather than arguments. I see ideas being bounced back and forth, things like that. It's just a lot healthier. And when you start reading that, you become more positive yourself. So it really rubs off, and it works. So, but again, the most important thing you can do is take breaks, get away from it, go talk to people, go do something with your kids if you have children. You know, you're not going to get that time back. There's a lot of more important things that you could be doing than sitting around arguing with other adults on Twitter.
It actually becomes comical whenever you get out in the real world and do other things. Like, I was out with my son all day on Sunday, and a couple of times I came back to, later that day to look at Twitter for a second. I was like, what is going on with these people? Like, it's just like, what are you doing? And I'm not trying to do that whole thing where it's like, oh, I've got a family. What life do you have, or anything like that? I just mean, it's like, you're just bored. Like, you're clearly just bored, and maybe trying to get engagement money from Twitter by starting fights with people and stuff like that, which I think is very probable. But which, to each their own, if that's what you want to do. Yeah. But it's definitely good to take a time off. Like I said, this is a bull market dip. These are ones that we really just shouldn't be worrying about. And again, if the candles weren't red, people wouldn't be stressing out about this stuff as much. So it is what it is. Let's move on to some more positive stuff that also has drama around it anyway, because everybody's dramatic right now. We've been seeing people clamoring for it in the chat tonight. We'll get to it now. So Dipcatcher is now launching GOFURS on Solana, much to the delight of some people and chagrin of others. Surprise, surprise. So GOFURS, obviously the NFT, which is an ERC 404. If you're new to what that narrative is, basically it's just how you're able to buy fractions of NFTs, which, may or may not be a big narrative this cycle. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think what Dipcatcher has done with them and the plans that he's already kind of talked about employing on them, which have been on, PulseChain, obviously, and Ethereum so far, sound really interesting. We had him on a few weeks back and talked about all things GOFURS. You can check out that stream. So I think this is an interesting choice to launch onto Solana, and to me, a chance to, I don't know why people can't see it this way, I guess, but whatever, to put an olive branch out there. These are already live on PulseChain and Ethereum. Keep in mind, they were also launched on Ethereum. I didn't really see anybody bitching about that when it happened. But I think it's an olive branch basically to people on Solana. Put these out there as well. And a great thing I was thinking of the other day, when Dipcatcher, and I think Gold Key is involved with these too, but whenever upgrades are made or new things are introduced or anything dealing with them, you could do something like do it with the version on PulseChain first. Do it only for the version on PulseChain. Like, many things can be done to these to where kind of like we're seeing with some other things, like, is the PulseChain GOFURS the real GOFURS, and I think he can do some things like that and potentially bring some people over from Solana and at least have a bridge there. Other people look at it as, oh, he's taking $2.5 million out of PulseChain and sent it over to Solana. This is people are just totally turning on him. It's your own judgment. I don't really care, but we've talked to the guy. I've engaged with him to a decent degree. I like what he's done. How quickly do people forget, like, this guy's created all the Maxi products and stuff like that, the perpetuals for Hex over the last few years. And now this one move, that's all just gone. Yep. You know what I mean? But anyway, first off, we can just talk about this at a high level, what your thoughts are on him launching on Solana, what your thoughts are on some of the tweets. I mean, everybody's seen it. It's KDP, basically, that's bitching about it. She's... I
think she was the loudest one, but I don't like extracting value. However, sometimes you do need to do things like that to get into another community. You're right. The olive branch thing with that. So, I mean, look at what Solana's doing as far as volume goes and how many users. I think there's 1 million users daily over there. Is that close to being accurate?
I don't know for sure.
It's pretty high. There's there's a lot of users over there.
Real quick, did you want to lose the hex site in the background? It's always
yeah,
just in case.
sure.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. So trying to get some of the user base over to PulseChain is a great idea, and I don't know of any other way to do it than to take a product from PulseChain and run it over there and get people. Maybe they'll like it. It's the whole thing is very cool. The story behind it, and he's got all these little characters and all that. It's it's pretty cool, right? I mean, he came up with this stuff very quickly, and it works, right? It's a cool story, and the Solana people they're into that type of thing. There's a lot going on. And Patrick just confirmed, yes, 1 million daily. So out of some of that, what if we get 10%, man? Of people that are interested, or even 5%, maybe. We can't, obviously 10% is probably a little bit high, but even if it's 5% of people that start playing around with it and be like, oh, this came from over here, maybe see what they're doing over there, kind of thing. It can't hurt. It's not gonna hurt anything. And that one price of the value that he did extract, hopefully we'll get that back in no time. And if 5% of people come over from it, we could probably quadruple, if not more, the value that he used to do it. So yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, it can't hurt, right? I mean, we're in an echo chamber, and if we're not reaching out to other people and other communities, it becomes one big circle jerk. Where are you going to get new buyers if it's just all the same people? It's just we've got to reach out to other communities. We've got to do other things that do throw that olive branch out there and get them in, and see it's a fully working ecosystem where people are. It's just got a bad rep. Obviously, Richard has a bad rep that comes with it. There's people that are saying that it's a ghost chain, that there's nothing going on. But then when they get over there, they see, oh well, everything's working. It's been pretty flawless. I have no issues, and there are some things that could be improved on. We could use a better block explorer. What if somebody comes over and says, oh, maybe I'll do that, or whatever? It could bring grifters too. We're going to have that, right? There are grifters on Ethereum chain. So
there's a lot. Yeah.
It's going to happen eventually with every ecosystem that is built. You're going to get those types of scammers and things that come along with it. But they are users. They do increase the network, and hopefully with the education that we've gotten so far, we can sniff a lot of them out before anybody really gets hurt. So, but again, it's not our job to be police. People need to take action for what they do. So, yeah, I don't mind it. I'm not, I wasn't upset when I saw it. The first thing I thought was, why is he going over there? I thought he was like moving the whole thing, but that's not the case. Not the case at all. I think you can burn them to launch over there, or just buy over there, which which is better when you look at it that way. Are you going to burn one and move it, or the only thing I don't like is a bunch of people leaving here and going over there. If he can grab some of that community and bring them back, that'd be great. But I hope all of the holders don't just migrate. That would be a bad move.
No, I think that's the folly of, and I'm not singling out KDP. She kind of singled herself out by talking about that. But
right.
And no shade to her. I mean, she actually, for any critics that she might have, she has valuable content for sure. I just totally disagree with her on this.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of what her whole point was, of like, oh yeah, nobody's going over there. People are not going to, people that are ingrained in PulseChain are not going to ditch it for Solana. That's just, I mean, I understand that money has flowed over there right now because of this happening. That's fine. But I mean, this is just an IDO, which is what was appealing about it to me. And I threw a small amount in of new capital. I didn't get rid of Pulse positions or anything like that, because it was an IDO and a chance to be in on the ground floor on it, on Solana. But yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity. There are multiple videos out there, and Dipcatcher pretty well explained exactly how to do this. If you did want to get in on that IDO, I think it ends tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, essentially you got to download the Phantom wallet. That's PHANTOM, because I think it works with multiple chains, but they have Solana on there, Ethereum, and another popular one. I forget what it is. But then you just go to that water.maximus.cash site that Dipcatcher provided. There's also another site he gave. You'll have to check his tweets. But you just basically go there. You're going to put in your transaction hash. You send a token of your choosing. He has a list of the tokens that are accepted. You can send them to, I think it's Minty B's wallet address, copy the transaction hash, and basically document that at that water.maximus.cash site. So I wasn't necessarily trying to give a tutorial on it, but there's plenty of them out there. Check it out. If you are interested in it, you have like less than a day now.
Just make sure you verify it, because when things like this happen, there are always people that create fake sites to try and get you to deposit into their wallet.
Mm-hmm.
They'll clone a site and make it look like the same thing, and it's really not. So just double verify before you go messing around. We don't want anybody to lose money. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and good point, Patrick. Sorry if you may have already shared this, Ewok, and I didn't see, but he says, "Aren't we all here to make money? Make it where you can." Yeah, I totally agree. And it's not like nobody's going all in on Solana GOFURS. I don't think that's
not.
what's happening here. Yeah, I hope not too. But yeah, it's a good chance if you want to throw a lottery ticket size entry in, possibly, and get on the ground floor on the Solana version of them anyway. So that is that. Let's go to OX Coast. Some more good news. So Coast, which has been many people's number one choice for getting into PulseChain. It's not a bridge. It's a way to get just right into PulseChain. They've kind of been shut down over the last couple of weeks, dealing with bank issues and stuff. Nothing that they caused or no internal issues with them, but more so the bank that they were dealing with. And we got great news that they actually said that they have over 10 fiat on-ramp banks that are going to be added, making it sounds like the transactions will be robust. I bookmarked their tweet, I believe. But this is huge news. They basically got tons of resources here in their time away. Here it is. They say important update. The next release of PulseChain's fiat on-ramp will incorporate over 10 depository banks into our financial infrastructure. It will be very robust. And then you can sign up for updates there. So this is very exciting to have that many options. You've used Coast, I know, more than I have. Just tell me about, you've said it before, but some of your experiences with them. And this is great news. This is like way, way, way more options. And I would think that it's going to operate even better than it already was. And I don't see why it wouldn't be like the top way to get into PulseChain after they make these changes. So yeah, what do you make of it?
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. I like those guys a lot. They have really good customer service. There's always somebody there to answer. Just having that many backups as far as banking goes, very robust. One goes down, there's no harm. You got 9 more, right? So the problem with this last one was they only had one. And when something happened with that bank, it kind of put a wrench in the whole thing. And, nobody wants to do that. It makes it very difficult to run a company when one of the other service providers you have is gone. So, it's not good. So yeah, definitely more robust. They're good guys. They know their stuff. They've checked all the boxes. They've dotted the I's, crossed the T's, as far as
dotted the lowercase J's.
Yeah. They've done all the stuff as far as regulation and really did their homework. So, they're expanding around the globe all the time. So there's constantly new areas where they're able to do business and transact. And I think with this increase of banks, it's going to help that go even faster. So yeah, kudos to them, the work they're doing, even though they've been, down for 2 weeks now. And they say, they said, we hate to say the famous last words, but when somebody asked them a time frame, they said probably 2 more weeks. So at least it's not 4 more weeks, or that meme went a long way as well. But
2 weeks to slow the spread.
2 weeks
you
to
brought
slow
that up
the
to me
spread.
earlier today.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, pretty excited. They're a good group of guys. Yes, they're always there to help. They're it's a lot faster too. You just need to, because they do deal with the regular banks. The best time to transact with them is during the day when banks are open. Otherwise, there is a bit of a delay from the time you get your funds, and it actually converts it into the CST token from there. Now, I believe with the changes, you can actually buy Hex, Pulse, Coast. I don't know if you can buy Pulse X directly or not. Either way, it's going to be a lot more expanded as far as the coins you can buy and onboard right into PulseChain without Coinbase. Everyone says, well, it sucks that it's not instantaneous, but somebody just, I missed the comment, Patrick. Yeah, 7 days for Coinbase. So if it's overnight or anything like that throughout the week until they open the next day, it's one thing. If you buy late on a Friday night, you may have to wait till Monday till it clears. So, just keep that in mind. You are dealing with traditional banks that aren't open on the weekends or in the evening. So keep that in mind. But yeah, pretty excited. They're doing good stuff. Support them if you can. It will definitely help to get more funds in on that side of things as well, without having to bridge, without losing fees. And don't forget, we talked about this before, the weight token that they have. If you buy, I think it's down to like the right. I think you needed 100,000 of them. Was that the amount that you needed? If you lock up 100,000 tokens of the weight tokens, it takes your percentage down from 4% down to 1%. So it's only a 1% fee. So just keep that in mind.
Just answering Alex in the chat here real quick. Creative Crypto merch, we got it at creativecrypto.com. So go ahead and check it out. Got good stuff on there. So please check that out. Get yourself a t-shirt. We got them listed here on the video as well. There's all kinds of different ones on there for you. Ask DJ Moonboy. He's all about the tri-blend tees. So speaking of this, so we are talking about ways to get into PulseChain. And again, awesome stuff for Coast. It's going to be really cool to see where they have all these other options up. And I think it may make the premier way to get in if they weren't already. But let's take another look at this SparkSwap. So we've talked about this bridge, the last couple of weeks. And we had somebody comment about buying USDC on Coinbase earlier, sending it via the Arbitrum network over to your wallet, and then going from SparkSwap, the Arbitrum network, over to PulseChain. And I have now done this twice, and I was pleasantly surprised by the experience. And we want to show you kind of the ins and outs of it here tonight. And what appears to be, I guess you couldn't call it hidden if it's pretty much in plain sight, but what does appear to be a fee for bridging over that isn't totally clear up front. Not saying that there shouldn't be a fee. Bridges having fees is totally normal. I just want people to know what they're getting into so they can make the best transaction for them. Whether you're going to use like the native PulseChain.com bridge, where you're going to be paying potentially a massive Ethereum bridge fee. We are seeing Gwei come down right now that the market has tanked. It was just in the 20s a moment ago. So that makes a bridge on, PulseChain.com or any bridge coming out of Ethereum a little bit more tenable. But what you've got to do in these kind of scenarios, whether you're using SparkSwap, the PulseChain bridge, whatever, you've got to make the best call for yourself, and you have to think of all these factors. What is the amount of capital that you're trying to bridge in? Is this like a huge amount all at once? You may not care as much about the Ethereum bridge fee if it's a large amount of cash for you. If this is a smaller little bit of a paycheck or something like that, that's where a lot of people have been targeting SparkSwap, and I do think that it is a good option for that. So Ewok, I think, yep, has it up. And if you might cut some of it off. I was going to say, are you able to zoom in a little? Well, don't do that yet. Never mind, because I want to show them exactly what you want to do here. So on SparkSwap, if you guys see here, over to the left, Ewok has the tabs over there. You're just going to go under. It's kind of weird that it's under trade, but if you go under trade, you just want to go to the bridge, which is what he's already got up here. And then you can see, basically, you can do everything under that umbrella, like swap, liquidity, and bridge. And we're focusing on the bridge, of course. So the main thing everybody has been talking about is exactly what Ewok already plugged in here, and that is bridging from Arbitrum. And it actually will come up in your MetaMask as Arbitrum 1, I believe, is the name of the network. But from Arbitrum and using USDC rather than DAI. Like we're used to using DAI a lot of the times, but you'd have to use USDC for these methods. Now, what I've done is added cash to Coinbase, waited for that to clear. Sometimes just depends on, I guess, how many times you're doing it in a month or how Coinbase is feeling or whatever. But sometimes the cash is available to withdraw right away. Sometimes there is that weak wait that Patrick brought up. But you've got to use USDC. And again, you want to go to your MetaMask first. We're not going to go to this step necessarily, but you want to go to your MetaMask first and add the Arbitrum network. It should be one of the default ones that you can just choose on MetaMask. Make sure that you add that RPC and just make sure you have that network on there. Then you want to add in the tokens that you're going to be using. Crypto Coffee has a great tutorial on this, which I think is where everybody even learned of this method. But make sure that you send a little bit of Ethereum, because you're still going to need Ethereum there on Arbitrum and your MetaMask to do the bridge. You're only going to need more like $5 though, or something like that. So you're going to need that, and then your USDC that you already have bought on Coinbase, you will send via the Arbitrum network. So Coinbase will let you do that. Right now, I think that's another place where you're not paying fees. It's free to send it out on Arbitrum, whereas usually on Ethereum, you're paying whatever gas is at the time. So there's another place that you would be saving. So you send it out on Arbitrum, get it into your wallet, hook your wallet up to here. Look, everybody can do whatever they want to do. When I'm trying out bridges that aren't like the PulseChain.com bridge, I'm using a prostitute wallet or something like that. So I'm using like another third wallet, getting, what I need over to PulseChain, buying what I want to buy, and then sending it to my main wallet. So that's what I've been doing, sending the tokens to my main wallet. But yeah, so you're here, you're getting ready to bridge from Arbitrum over to Pulse. And what Ewok already has plugged in here is exactly what you would want to do. You would want to just go over and bridge the USDC to Pulse into Pulse. There are other options there if you click the drop down there, Ewok, instead of Pulse for the token to receive. Yeah. So you don't want to do, I wouldn't do any of this. I would just go ahead to make it easy and select Pulse for what you're going to transfer over into. And then after that, you can just trade it out. If you're just DCing it at Pulse, that's fine. But if you want to trade it out into something else, obviously you can then do that as well. Now, something I wanted to show, and then I want to get your thoughts on all this too, Ewok, is if you, to highlight this for these people, change Pulse token to DAI here. So I just want to show what you guys can see. If you were bridging over, we'll just use what we were using, $600. You're actually only going to receive $579.18 of DAI when you bridge over. So there is, whatever you want to call it, a fee, something built into this bridge that you should be aware of. So right there, that's a relatively small percentage. That's not an amount that I would be too worried about, but you should know that it is there. So I should be able to do that in my head, but that's a 3.5% fee right there. So that's standard. I mean, that's
standard.
Yeah. Now, another way you could do this, I mean, if you didn't want to just look at it the stable coin comparison way, if you would do this into Pulse, like Ewok just had up, and I'm not going to ask you to also do this, Ewok, but if you wanted to test this another way, if you were transferring it over into Pulse, which $600, if you want to do that example again, would get you just over 5 million Pulse presently. You could also test this up against, like, go to PulseX, go to Piteus, whatever you want to call it, go to your favorite DEX on Pulse, type in 600 USDC, and see how much Pulse that's netting you. It's likely going to be a higher amount than this, and it will probably equate to that, like, $20 difference or something. Yeah. So if we can just check right here.
So we'll do DAI into Pulse 600.
So Sparkswap was saying just over 5 million. So let's see, 5.2 million. So another 200 some thousand. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So again, there's a fee. I mean, so it's not free, obviously. Any bridge or any service that you're going to use, they got to make something, which is perfectly fine as far as commerce goes. They can't be in business to break even. It doesn't pay the bills. So I get it. But just know that there is a fee. It's kind of worked into the amount of tokens that you get, though, for the exchange.
Right. If you go back to SparkSwap there, the other thing to keep in mind now, to me, when I was kind of doing the math on this, it kind of depends on, like, what is okay to you in your eyes to pay for an Ethereum bridge fee. You know what I mean? Like, again, Gwei is coming down right now. So these rates, maybe you'll prefer to just go to pulsechain.com and use that bridge because Gwei is a little bit better. When it's exorbitantly high, this option may be a little bit better for you. And you can see too, I mean, if you go up in the dollar amounts here, you're gonna be being charged more and more money. So I mean, if you are bridging in, you know, I was thinking even more than that. Like if you do, say, like $5,000, do like $5,000 and then just check the DAI instead of Pulse so we can really see, like, just straight up what's happening here. You have to then type it in again. So so 44.93. I mean, you're looking at $500.
That's 10%.
Yeah,
that's 10%.
So I mean, hey, that's what it's displaying. We haven't executed these moves to prove out that that's what you're going to get on the other side. But if that's kind of the rake that you're paying, you need to use pulsechain.com. You know what I mean? Like there's no contest. So this remains a fantastic option, I think, for smaller amounts like that. It's awesome. And the other thing I haven't mentioned yet, the bridging is instantaneous. It's not really a bridge. It's more like a,
it's a swap.
Welcome mat. Yeah. I mean, well, I just mean like it's, there's not a lot of distance between the two chains. Yeah. You get right over. It's very cool. So I love it. I've used it a couple of times just for smaller amounts. If you want to get in like real quick, I think it's fantastic. But if you have like a gigantic amount, chances are you're also not as worried about fees. And in that case, I think the traditional way of just using the bridge. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
Willie B. Long just said SparkSwap is amazing. Here, let's see. He is staked for 10 years in Sparker. Apparently there's rewards for those fees that get paid out to the Sparkler stakes. So
I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
There you go.
But yeah, cool. If so, maybe you know more on it, but it is still, I'm not throwing shade on it. I mean, it is great for smaller amounts. I think it's great. Just be wary, like anything in crypto, like that, make sure you make the right decision for you based on what you're bridging at the time. That's all.
Right.
But yeah, another great option. And it is cool just in general that we're having a lot of these really pop up, to be able to bridge over. So it's a good option. And again, you can't really underweight, how important that sending the funds on Arbitrum rather than ETH, because you're cutting down another fee on the front end too.
Yep.
So.
Well, it's the same thing that we were talking about with Coast. There's added layers of backup plans, and not all of them are going to always be working, right? So if you've got something that you need to do, it's good to know other options. We talked about Change Now, we talked about SparkSwap. You have the regular bridge.pulsechain.com. There's a bunch of them actually out there. These are just the ones that we have used and know that they work well. Just kind of giving you the pitfalls of the bigger transaction that you go on the SparkSwap, the bigger the fee gets. So just keep that in mind and do some testing before you actually do it, so that you can see what you're going to get before you actually press the button.
I would definitely do that. And I'll let people know that from the few times I have sent USDC on Arbitrum, it seems like it takes a bit to get over to your wallet on Arbitrum, like longer than when I send stuff on ETH, to be honest. So I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, just be leery of that. If it's not there in 5 minutes, don't panic. Just give it some time and make sure your withdrawal went on the right, went to the right wallet. Okay, well, I think we're just about good. Let's wrap up on this. We tabled this from last week to this week, and I think we agree on this. It's kind of a heady conversation, but we've been talking about Hex, eHex, all this stuff tonight. Is Hex period a cycle 1 or a cycle 2 coin? And I'd like us to kind of provide our reasons why. So I won't give mine first, Ewok, but there's been debate about this. PulseChain obviously definitely is a first cycle token, first cycle blockchain. PulseX, first cycle DEX for sure. All real DeFi done, the way that we want it to be done by Richard Hart. But when it comes to Hex, because it is a copy that people did get if they were holding it on Ethereum, do you consider and beyond, do you consider Hex to be a cycle 1 or 2 coin? How do you think the market is going to take to it also? Because I think that's really the answer that we're after. But what do you make of that? There's been a lot of debate about it, but how do you look at Hex as far as being cycle 1 or cycle 2?
It's I honestly, when I consider it, I think of it as more of a hybrid, right? Because you have the chart of a first cycle, but you have the forked community of a second cycle type thing. So it's not a complete organic start. It's not a complete start from zero thing where you're building up from absolutely nothing, no liquidity, you know what I mean? So it's almost like a hybrid, because there are certain attributes to it that would come off as a cycle 1, but yet we've already had a full cycle, 3 years of almost 4 years now of growth.
Right.
So you almost have to take it into account for both of those things. Now, which one will play out more? Well, it really depends. Does the community continue to grow, or are we hitting the point of it's going to take a little bit longer now because we've kind of branched out into those 5 coins that I was talking about earlier, where there's a lot of economic energy now getting split. You've got people also coming up with new coins, and all these, the shiny object syndrome is definitely happening, because the gains aren't coming fast enough for people. So, I still think of it more. The name is out there. The logo is out there. That was another discussion too. Are they going to make the logos different?
Yeah.
So that you can tell them apart, as far as when they get listed on exchanges or when they eventually get, listed correctly on ranking sites and things like that. I know there's an initiative right now, where there's some folks trying to raise some money to get it listed on
MEXC. Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is it's not available in the United States. Although I know there are hexagons all over the world. I get it. It's probably 50-50. 50% of the users are probably US, and then 50% everywhere else that can use it. So not necessarily a bad thing, but it is one of the first steps that we would have to take in order to get it listed properly, if it's able to ever be shown correctly on CoinMarketCap,
Right.
without winning a lawsuit. So
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, that's my answer. I see it as a almost a hybrid. Because like I said, there are attributes of both cycle 1 and cycle 2. We just luckily have a chart that's kind of getting a restart. Then
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, like, in this fashion, this has never been done before. Like a token being copied, like a full, system state of Ethereum being copied on a PulseChain. Like that hasn't happened before. So there
Right.
is that unique thing. I mean, if I had to pick and not ride the fence like you just did with your answer, Ewok, I would probably have to say cycle 2. Like if I had to say one or the other. I mean, it is awesome that there's a new chart that can be paid attention to. I mean, I think that that's definitely good. But when I think people ask the question, like, what are they really asking when they say, is it cycle 1 or is it cycle 2? I think what they're asking is, will it perform like a
Right.
cycle 1 or a cycle 2?
Yeah.
And because of the reasons that you mentioned about, like, a community already being there, people who may have, sell targets at lower depressed prices because they've already made it, quote unquote. I think it would more perform like a cycle 2, which is still, good. I mean, like there are cycle 2 tokens that perform really, really well. So that's what I would be inclined to call it. But I do love the fact that, yeah, there is going to be a new chart that you can reference. Now, Johnny Chaos said it in this chat earlier tonight. The main crypto new, whatever you want to call them, media entities, if they ever look at it, they're just going to look at Hex on Ethereum, which is what I think. Is that their folly? Yeah, but they're also doing it though, and there's a lot of eyes on it. So again, not to rehash our whole conversation from earlier, but all these people that just want to, like, no, don't you understand, Ivan, you idiot? Like, we don't look at the Hex chart anymore. Well, okay, tell that to these huge channels that don't even pay attention to this ecosystem anyway. Like that,
Right.
that's what they're going to pull up. So there's really no incentive for eHex, that chart looking horrible. There's no good thing that comes from that. But yeah, in terms of whether I call it a cycle 1 or cycle 2 coin, I would say cycle 2, I guess. And you're right. I guess it is a hybrid. It's cool we have a new chart, but I think we're dogs going wild there. I think what we're really talking about is performance. And I would look at it more as a cycle 2, which I think it's going to do very well. What I think will be really interesting is to see, where will this ratio between Hex and eHex kind of find its footing again? Because I think we have likely seen the bottom of that ratio at like 0.1, I think it was at. Or, we're visiting that, or maybe we'll visit it again. But it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. I also think there's a chance that it could end up like right back up towards the top of where it was before Richard Hart's tweets, which would be pretty interesting if that does happen again. But
man, I don't know. I think it really depends on BankX. And if they decide to get tired of waiting, how patient are they? Do they have weak hands? Or, and then you look back at this whole thing and you're like, man, Godwell played it pretty right, didn't he? He kept his Pulse Hex. He got rid of his eHex and kind of left that with somebody else, and so it wasn't an issue at all for him.
Right.
People were like, I can't believe he did that. Why did he do that? And it's kind of played out very well for him. So kind of a good decision where he got something else for it. At that time was worth a lot more, and then they ended up with something not quite as valuable. So I don't want to say worthless, but in all
worth
aspects
less.
Worth less, right? So
that is why he is Godwell, I guess.
So made the right call on that one. There's one more thing I wanted to bring up real quick that I kind of wish would happen, and I'm seeing a lot of this, and I don't know, and get your thoughts on it too. I wish a lot of these wallets that people watched and knew about and know who's behind them and things like that, I kind of wish they would go to a mixer and disappear off the radar. because I feel like there's a lot of people just sitting around and waiting,
Yeah.
sitting around and waiting for someone or something to make a move. And I think it's damaging the motivation that a lot of us had at one point or have. And I think things would be a lot better if those things were not known when they move.
Hmm.
Um,
I agree.
I wish they would hit a mixer and disappear into, like, I don't know, 50 ETH each or something like that, or, you know, 10,000 DAI, or, you know, the big wallets. You know,
Yeah.
I just wish they would kind of go away. I don't like the fact that they're there, they're being watched, and as soon as there's a pump, people want to take advantage of it and sell immediately because they know where it came from. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
not liking it. I wish there was a way that we could get them hidden. I wish there was a way that they could become anonymous and cycle into some Tumblr. Now, I don't know if it would cause issues for anything else that might be happening if that were to
Hmm.
happen, but I really wish that's how it would play out. Unfortunately, I don't know that it will, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think people are just kind of standing by waiting for somebody to pump their bags and everything like that. And just reporting on that stuff far too much. Now, I do think that it is, um, that's actually one of those things that is a great advertisement. Like that is something that, like, oh, hey, the world's largest DAI holder is buying PulseChain. I mean, that's all good. And I mean,
Yeah,
we could still know those facts anyway. That's fine. You just may not, we may know it from previous times. It just may not be as like directly trackable if that were to happen. But yeah, I am with you there. I think yeah, people like get off on spying on these wallets and stuff like that, and I think that would be interesting, and it would add a little bit like more mystique into everything too.
yeah,
Just wonder where it is coming from or what's going on. But yeah, it's almost like the game. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about crypto is you can see everything, but it's almost like people have been spoiled by that, I think, and are just so reliant on it that's all that they want to
yeah,
tweet about. And then they start making up stories, they start making up hypotheticals and stuff like that, or acting like they have inside info on what these wallets are doing, and that's just Twitter for you, I guess. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I think that would be cool. I would welcome that. I don't think it's going to happen necessarily, but maybe with some, not all. Um, but yeah, I would be down with that for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up. Long story short for tonight, are you crying? Are you buying? I mean, we're going to have this in the bull market. I understand kind of having, I guess, like blue balls, for lack of a better term, here with the PulseChain ecosystem because um, Bitcoin hit all-time highs. A lot of random alts and meme coins ran. PulseChain recovered. We saw bullish action and a lot of things to be excited about. And, it didn't get to where people probably wanted it to start getting to, and it started to smack back down. So I understand people feeling that way. But remember, again, we are now in a bull market. These will be shorter lived. They won't be quite as deep, although some of these dips will be deep. And you just have to realize we're more on an upward trajectory now. We're on an upswing, and that should make these dips easier to handle. But I will tell you, they will be harder if you keep watching and looking at losers on Twitter bitching and fighting with each other. Like it does bring you down. So, I mean, Ewok and I both watch other channels of people that we like and trust, not just for copium. I mean, yeah, you definitely have that sometimes, but we do have that to where you just want to keep a level head. That's really all that it is. And that's what we try to provide here, and hopefully we are doing that, for you guys.
Yep.
But yeah, during these times, definitely buy the red, as Philly just said, for sure. Or remember, and I understand people are saying this too. I don't even have any money anymore. What do you mean buy? I don't know. I'm out of money. I've been out of money for months. Totally understand that, and that's why it. holding is truly demoralizing sometimes. Like when
Yeah.
you're not able to buy and you're sitting on your hands, like for me personally, when like my portfolio is down and I'm waiting for cash or just whatever, I hate that. It feels like demoralizing, like I want to take action, but holding is as good as buying. I mean, like you have no idea where these prices could be in the future. And just the fact that you're staying in the game, nobody's able to do that. Go ahead and open up Twitter and look what everybody's doing. They're not able to do that,
Nope.
So whatever you need to do, to calm your nerves, work out, put whatever substance you're into, as long as you're not abusing it, take some of that, whatever it is, to get through these times, do that. So do you have any other
definitely we need to bring back the delayed gratification. That needs to be pounded into people's heads that if you can just hold a little bit longer and be patient, good things happen. Good things happen to people who wait longer. It's proven in crypto, as long as you have something that's got market fit, it's going to be okay. And the longer you wait and the longer you delay the gratification, the better off you're going to be. Now, some of these things may not be here next cycle, and that's why I don't like, when people jump in and out of stuff. But you've got somebody who is about the glory, somebody that's going to do everything in their power to make it successful. You just got to be patient. Hang in there. It will all work out. And like Philly said, man, when you see red candles, if you can, that's when you should be picking a little bit more up.
Yep, absolutely. So glad to have all of you here. Patrick's, Astro and stuff, DJ Moonboy, Hexiest Man in the World, Philly, Hex Girl, Katie, Thomas Anderson, Big Funky, Fugly Googly. I missed some of you guys earlier. We appreciate all of you being here. Marco, thanks to all of you. We've had great active chats the last few weeks. We do this every single Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do us a favor. If you haven't done it and you're still here, hit the like button. Shows people that you support Real DeFi, shows people that you do support our channel, and we very much appreciate it. So thank you all for being here. We'll be here next Tuesday night. It'll be March the 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you guys.